Welcome to Talking Films Online, the Saturday discussion session. Talking Films Online, or TFO in short, is an informal coming together of academics, teachers, students, researchers, filmmakers, and cinephiles interested in cinema, more importantly, interested in talking and writing about cinema. The online group came together quite spontaneously during the pandemic and lockdown in June 2020. So it's 3 years since Talking Films Online Saturday discussions came alive. We have had over 140 events, online events, which include weekly discussions on a pre-decided film, besides month-long film festivals and discussions. We also organize a smartphone short film competition for students between 18 to 25 years of age every year. So we have just had the third annual anniversary event in June a month ago. Our aim is to get a conversation going around cinema and to get as many people involved in the process as possible. With all our events being online, anyone and everyone interested in cinema is welcome to our forum. We have a blog called talkingfilmsonline.wordpress.com, where we encourage all kinds of writings on cinema. We also have a YouTube channel called Talking Films Online, where you can watch some of our discussions. We are on Facebook. TFO is a private group on Facebook. We are also on Instagram and WhatsApp. So do reach out to us and do join the weekly discussions. Today, we have with us Dr. V.K. Karthika, who has suggested the Telugu film YASHODA this week for discussion. Dr. V.K. Karthika, before I introduce her more formally, I must also acknowledge that she was a student of mine in Pondicherry University more than a decade ago, and it's a very long and loving association with Karthika. As I introduce her, you will see that she is an accomplished young academic. She's an assistant professor of English in the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at the National Institute of Technology, Tiruchirappalli. She earned her master's in teaching English as second language, I think, studies from the University of Leeds, England, after a master's in English and comparative literature with a first rank and gold medal from Pondicherry Central University. That's where we met for the first time. She completed her BA in English language and literature, again with a second rank from MG University in Kerala. She began her teaching career in England as an ESOL, English as second language instructor and assessor. She had earned her doctorate from our university, the English and Foreign Languages University, in ELE, English Language Education. She serves as a reviewer for internationally renowned Scopus indexed and UGC care listed journals. She has presented her research papers in a number of conferences, national and international conferences in India and abroad. She is also published in a number of reputed journals like EPW, Journal of Asia, TEFL, Teaching English as Foreign Language, Journal of Poverty. There's a whole list of journals, and I also just came to know that she is now the recipient of the prestigious ICSSR project that was announced just a day ago, yesterday. She writes regularly articles for the Pioneer, Madras Courier, and a number of other magazines and newspapers. Interested in cultural criticism and philosophy of education, her work focuses on communicative peace and sustainable development goals. So very happy, Karthika, to have you on the TFO platform. And really looking forward to the discussion on YASHODA. Over to you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Yeah, thank you. That was a really elaborate kind of introduction. I'm grateful. And it is always a pleasure to listen to the conversations that happen over this platform. I've been following it up, though I couldn't join live. I used to visit the channel and then catch up or come on Facebook and then listen to it. So I was really apprehensive about this talk because I'm neither qualified as a film critic nor as an academic who work entirely in film studies. So my connection with Nikhila ma'am, she taught me film studies, and it stemmed my interest in films in a slightly academic way, began from Pondicherry days when she was our media studies teacher. So then like anybody else, when we watch films, it's just a bit of criticism that comes into our mind, maybe because we want to find fault with certain things. I don't know, those who cannot make films, maybe they become film critics. So I too try my hand in criticizing certain films. And also today I just thought about, we'll have a discussion. I mean, I thought of having a discussion on this particular movie because it really made me think about a few things that I didn't really think about till then, because it's a mainstream film, very popular one, which has all the so-called masala in it. So I initially began watching this film thinking that there is nothing much to watch. It's just like, we can just spend time and it goes like that. But then after a few frames, it became really interesting kind of a narrative. I'm sure that most of you, if not all, have watched this film. So the commercial aspect, it is very much there. All the items that are related to Tollywood are very much present there. Still, there are certain areas that it has touched upon differently. But I'm not here to praise the film as such. I was just thinking about it in a slightly different way. Maybe you too have got that kind of a of an outlook when you have watched the film. I hope my screen is visible. Um, yeah.
At the moment, yes, it's
Yes.
visible. Yeah.
Yes. So this actually, there are several posters for this film. And before we begin, I just want to take a kind of anticipatory bail. I may not be able to use all the technical terms and jargons which are related to film studies. Maybe during the discussion, I can be educated about it. So this is just perhaps a layman's interpretation of a film. So I just thought that we'll have a reading together. So this poster actually captured my attention. The lady protagonist, played by Samantha, she is in the center, and several other women whom we can see quite often in our daily life. You can't miss such faces at all. Very maybe middle class or lower middle class kind of women around them. I don't know whether that is my stereotypical thinking about it, but that's what I could make out of this poster. That's why I just thought I'll start the discussion with that and the name Yashoda, which definitely brings us back a lot of Puranic memories, to state it as such. So it's a film released in 2022, directed by Harish and Hari Shankar, in the mode of a sci-fi thriller. But then after some time into watching this film, we will question our own logics and all, thinking that in what case it becomes a sci-fi thriller. It has lots of flaws in it. Samantha, the lead actress, has done her role excellently well. These are the positive attributes of the film, if one has to come up with that. Then, as I said, all conventions are there. Then one thing that was really like standing out was mainstream films. I didn't see. Mimi is one example which came out recently. They rarely explore themes like surrogacy in Indian films. I'm familiar with the Malayalam ones and Hindi ones, but then something that comes to my mind quite quickly is Mimi. And we had one or two films in Malayalam long ago. When I was a child, I watched them, Dasharatham or Swam, which were like taking up the case of surrogacy. But then they dealt with those themes very seriously. It's ethics and other things, very carefully knitted down all those things. But then in this film, what I could see was you know very important topic like surrogacy was lightly handled, is what I felt as I was watching the film. Maybe you too have felt it. The capitalist agenda of cosmetics industry was yet another one. We have got mentioning here and there in several films scattered, but then this one was quite focused on that aspect, beautifully linking it with the body politics that is at play, and then linking it again with surrogacy. So this triangle was really curious for me, the surrogacy angle and the link of capitalist agenda of this cosmetics industry to that, and then the body politics that is actually shown as a point of stemming the entire business thing. So it's a very curious kind of narrative in that sense, when even when it is a very I mean, it's a mainstream kind of melodrama. Same time, it evokes certain other kind of equations when we place surrogacy, the cosmetic industry's exploitation, and the body politics that serve as a platform for everything to stem up from. Then just to, if somebody has missed out watching the film, I just wanted to briefly talk about the plot of it. There is a parallel plot. I mean, there are two parallel plots. One is a murder investigation of a top model and a business tycoon. Their car blasted, and some investigation that is what makes it a crime thriller in the beginning. And then we can see Yashoda, played by Samantha, who is a delivery girl at Zomato, at the end of her first trimester, being shifted to a very posh kind of maternity center called Eva from the local government maternity center. So from there, the thriller element begins. And then we can see that she is blindfolded, and then she is taken to this, highly sophisticated place of Eva, or the interiors of Eva. And for me, this word interior, it just resonates again and again, or it recurs again and again, because actually what we see in the rest of the movie, in this particular plot of Yashoda, not the previous one, which I told you about the crime that happened, the murder investigation. If we just take it out of the thing, what we see is the interior of Eva and the life that happens in that space within Eva. The name itself is very, very interesting. And then this very posh, very sophisticated, and people can't afford. People like Yashoda, who is a Zomato delivery girl, cannot afford it. But then, as she is a surrogate mother for a very affluent family, she is being transported to this particular place, and she meets several other middle class or lower middle class surrogate mothers there. And it is very difficult to gel with them initially. They have their own ragging systems and all. Then comes Madhubala, played by Varalakshmi Sharat Kumar, and then Dr. Gautam, who appears to be a very genuine and congenial kind of human being, who is very humane to others and all. Madhubala is very strict. She is the administrator there. And everything is being taken care of. All the surrogate mothers are provided with what they have to get, what their diet plans are set. So actually, they do not have any control over their body at all. And one interesting thing is that the idea of time and space is also displaced, because are also displaced, because they don't know anything about the time they came in, because they are sedated when they are traveling to Eva. They don't know how long they are sedated for and when did they come. So the day they are sedated, they might remember, but then the day they arrived, the time, there are no clocks around. There's nothing to mark the time there. So we can see that Yashoda is actually marking strokes on the wall, marking the days that she is aware of being there. That's the only time factor, or the way to find out the days that she spent there, the hours that she spent there. So very, very interesting kind of intriguingly interesting kind of a place that is. Nobody has any worry about it as well, because the surrogates are very happy about the poshness and the lavishious things that they are provided with. Everything is an extravaganza for them, because they are living a life they could never dream of, because they are all from very lower kind of a background, economically lower kind of a background, and they can't dream of a very comfortable life like this, and they are enjoying it to a great deal. That's what is being presented to us. Therefore, they don't question their, being confiscated in that particular space at all. So these fellow surrogates are fine with it, and then eventually the investigation team who is investigating the murder of the model and the business tycoon and his lover find out certain connections between those murders and a cosmetic firm, and this leads them to the investigation further, and they found that there is a secret ingredient that is an anti-aging ingredient that this particular company uses, and they're selling it to the top persons in the world. So that is where we are going to link Eva. I mean, we are getting the link between Eva and the initial murders that were portrayed. So the secret ingredient is, it is revealed as the plasma of the, embryo or the fetus. And for fetus farming, Eva is the center. So the surrogates who are there, they never go out alive. They are killed in surgery, and then their fetus is taken and the plasma is extracted, and the babies are saved, the embryos are saved in bottles, preservatives, preserved properly, and in a mortuary, the women's bodies are also saved. So this is a very horrible kind of aspect that we see there. But then how much could that evoke the pity or fear or whatsoever? So at one point, a very dear friend of Yashoda goes in for delivery and she never comes back. And curious Yashoda goes for hunt, we think. And then eventually it becomes very clear that Yashoda is not there just as a surrogate, but she actually played with her body, or she actually pawned her body in such a way that, in order to find out her missing sister. So she had a sister who went for surrogacy and she got missing, and then therefore this woman has come in search, and that doesn't end there. She turns out to be a police officer trainee, and all sorts of drama there, and finally they expose the entire, she being the major person there, the protagonist there, she exposes the entire management of Eva. At the same time, the parallel plot also reaches here, and they find, it also merges with the Yashoda plot. And then there is a discovery of so many things, that the minister who is Madhubala's, the hospital manager's husband, who is very old, is involved in this. Dr. Gautam is as evil as Madhubala, and the police chief is also involved in that. So the law and order, the doctor, the healthcare wing, everybody has a vicious connection. Again, a kind of a triangle there. And all of them are facilitating this fetus farming for this particular cosmetic industry to cultivate wealth. And the cost that they are, they have to actually pay is like 5 lakhs, which they give us advance, or 20 lakhs they give. So when we watch the film, if we don't, just think about it in a general public's point of view, then we can see that surrogacy is dealt as a very simple kind of thing, because there are several discussions between the surrogates shown in the film, where they are giving up some kind of reasons for why they became the surrogate. So one person says that she wanted to buy an Apple iPhone, and therefore she wanted to become a surrogate. But then eventually that person turns out to be a kind of a spy for the Eva management, planted among the mothers, among the surrogates. But then again, there is a woman who would like to save her mother from the Red Street, and therefore she becomes one. And there is yet another woman, which is a very curious case actually. There is yet another woman who wants to prove that her womanhood is valued, and she is doing something that men cannot do, which was really like very shocking kind of a statement. So for that, she is actually playing with her body and asserting her body's right to carry the baby and all. So though surrogacy is seen as a very central kind of theme there is a lot of differences between actuality and appearance. So if anybody is interested in reading more about it, I can suggest somebody's work actually from University of Hyderabad, Sheila Suryanarayanan. She works in this surrogacy thing. So I read a few of her articles, and based on clear statistics, statistics, she has done very good work in this surrogacy and its ethical questions and the field concerns. And also, when we read it, we will really understand that it's more than what we can imagine, and the kind of subjugation that these mothers go through, and the kind of emotional pain, and sometimes, even the numbness that they feel, and the lack of payment, sufficient payment, and sometimes the baby is dark, so they don't get paid. All such sort of things, all sorts of case studies, if we read through it, we'll understand that this is a very lame kind of treatment of the central theme called, which Hari and Harish wanted to portray. In their interview, they say that we wanted to, bring this into limelight and all, in one of the interviews that I read. Then interestingly, how this mothering and othering happens. They rhyme together, but then it's more than that. So when these surrogates are there, they sing lullabies, and then they are conversing about, especially one particular surrogate, how, and she is shown as the embodiment of this so-called Madonna figure. There is media, but we never think about media, right? We just think about the good mother kind of a person. So she, as an embodiment of all female virtues, or maybe to be more precise, the embodiment of motherhood values. There is kind of an othering that happens. Anybody who doesn't fit into that convention, somebody who goes and smokes, not caring about the baby who is there in the womb. I'm not supporting that, one should smoke when the baby is in the womb. I'm not saying that, but then it is presented in such a way that a woman compromises a lot and it is only those women who just sacrifices all her happiness, or all the things that she would like to do in order to safeguard the baby, will be seen as this ideal mother. So in multiple frames it comes up. Even in the last frame, this good mother, bad mother kind of, which I'll talk a little later about. So this continuously, the frames after she comes to Eva, after Samantha's character comes to Eva, it keeps on recurring. How this, how a good mother should be, how a bad mother will be, all sorts of things. And then lots of corrections, a lot of corrective behaviors are being shown even by Yashoda. You shouldn't be like this, you shouldn't be like that. The do's and don'ts. There are several things that happen in the conversations. I mean, several matters being discussed in the conversation, and they're very clear about what to be done and what not to be done. So having a perfect diet and having no agency over their body, these are all like quite visible there. So everybody is fitting into that framework of that perfect mother, and they know that they are surrogates. They are pampering the babies in their womb, and they know that they will not have any kind of connection. So there is no alienation that is being portrayed there in terms of their body. They just value it, but at the same time, they are othered from the baby, from the beginning itself. They know that. Still, there is so much of mothering that happens. So it's a very complicated kind of thing. We really do not know when the mother speaks as a mother and when the mother says things as another. Very interestingly, that is portrayed. And then the vulnerability of women. So as I said, somebody wants to save her mother or her sister from the red street, and then therefore she comes for it. Somebody else wants to prove her identity. And to assert one's feminine agency or female agency, somebody deciding to go as a surrogate and earn money through that was slightly mishandled, I must say. And it again shows the vulnerability of women. It's not reinforcing, or it's not actually enforcing any kind of agency to her. Rather, it is actually a kind of misreading that happens. But then when we think about the watching, spectators, I don't know how many of them will be trained enough to understand that this is a misconception. So most of the stereotypes are actually being served through the film, though it is showcased in a very different way, or maybe an antithesis of what is being claimed is what we get. And again, the concept of motherhood as an ideal is recurring all the time, and at the same time reiterating all the stereotypes that are already prevalent. So it's really an intriguing kind of of dilemma that we go through, because the scene shifts quite quickly between this good and bad and justification and ratification. It's really like clumsy at times. So the film's narrative is quite confusing for anyone. But at the same time, if we think about it, there is no agency attributed to the females, including Yashoda. When Yashoda is shown as a police officer trainee, then her sister is shown as someone who wants her sister, that is Yashoda, to be a police officer. Therefore, she wants to have some money for sending her elder sister for training, which doesn't make sense. I mean, in a larger way, we think about it, it doesn't make sense. So therefore, she actually decides to go as a surrogate, earn money for her sister to become a friend. Again, when we look at it, it's again making the woman vulnerable, or making this sister of her more vulnerable to the politics that is around her. And when Yashoda comes in search of her sister, then it is a quite promising kind of an act, a woman who is trained for martial arts and other things, and who knows how to use a gun. She comes and she checks and she lives as one of the surrogates. But then again, that extent to which she goes to live, just like spies living in in different countries in disguise, she comes as one of them and she explores the place and she finds it, which sounds like quite progressive kind of an idea. But at the same time, there is something else that happens in the movie as well, to which I'll come in some time, I mean quite quickly. So these compromising mothers, their likes and tastes being altered, it is tamed by the doctor, by the management, by the fellow surrogates, because again, as the correction measures will still go on, you are not supposed to eat that, you are not supposed to drink that, you are supposed to eat at this time. Everything is being decided or ordered or commanded by somebody else, and they're compromising. They just have to compromise. So crime and punishment is for every crime. That means crime in the sense, the moral crime that I'm talking about here. The bad mother, when we talk about the bad mother, this hospital manager, Madhubala, is the bad mother there. And whoever is not belonging to that that framework of all the attributes for a good mother, that being very benevolent, being very kind, being soft spoken, that becomes, I mean, that person becomes a bad mother. So in this case, Madhubala is a bad mother because it is from her the entire crime is seen as sprouting. If you remember the movie, you can see that she is married to this minister for all sorts of political benefits or economic benefits. You can see that she is an evil woman, and then with all her other intentions, everything is portrayed as evil there about Madhubala. And one day she realizes that she has a particular disease, and then from there how to get help from others. And then it is shown that she uses men for her own benefits. And therefore she gets punished at the end of it, because she was a bad mother who used her own fetus for treating her illness. By killing the baby. So she is punished by all the good mothers, pushing her off the cliff. So the crime and punishment, everything is again in the patriarchal order, and you can clearly see the male gaze at work. How Madhubala is acknowledged for her physical beauty and charm, and when it gets lost, and how she is being portrayed. All these things are quite clearly visible in the movie narrative. And when they do that, they don't really acknowledge the bad mother as a victim of the patriarchal ideals. The same ones that is punishing her is the actual source for all the errors that she commits, in a sense. But then greed and avarice, all those things are shown as another another set of elements that actually provoke her to, or not provoke, actually make her to marry this old in quotes, nothing in age, but then this particular minister. so from there, how she changes and all. And then there are several regressive measures. I'm just rushing so that we can have some time for discussion. So regressive measures are plenty. So Yashoda, the name itself, as I said, it brings us back the foster mother of Krishna. So that foster motherhood, that is very important. So who is she a foster mother for? That comes in the last scene when we understand that her sister is also there in the interiors of Eva, and then she is under labor pain, and then a nurse actually takes the delivery without any modern medical support. So this is very interesting. They all come out of the Eva interior for the first ever time they stepped into this building, and they realized that there is nothing modern around it. It was in a very remote place, or it was kind of an underground built stuff. And then when they come out, they're all up there on the top of the cliff. So what they see outside their window, all of them were virtual realities. That was a very promising kind of scene in the beginning, where Yashoda actually opens the window, I mean, tries to open the window and touch the dove that sits outside on the window shade. But then she couldn't touch it. And then after some time, she realizes that when she breaks the glasses, she understands that what she sees as the urban outside or the urban exterior is actually a virtual reality. There is nothing like any buildings, or there is no dove there. It's all something that is played on the screen. So whatever the management wants the surrogates to see, they're projecting it. So that was a very promising scene. I don't know whether it was inspired by any Hollywood films or any other films, but it was a very promising kind of scene, which I found to be very powerful about their utter helplessness and lack of agency over anything. They don't have any choice to see, to feel, to smell. So everything is confiscated by this capitalist segment of the society to whom they interact. So now, having said all those things, Yashoda realizes it. Yashoda is very progressive, very modern in that outlook. But then again, like her name, her actions are bringing back the old conventional things, like that mythical mother image is being brought back when the nurse gives the baby of her sister to Yashoda, and she calls the baby Krishna. It could have been a baby girl, which for me would have made more sense, protecting and other things. But then it is Krishna. So she is the foster mother of Krishna. She is the one, I mean, attributes are plenty when it comes there, which is clearly a regression when we think about the kind of plot that the movie was trying to foreground. Then again, as I said, the endorsing of stereotypes or certain things are quite engendered. So in that case, we can think about the beauty, beauty as an essential feminine attribute. So a woman has to be beautiful. And that concept is actually iterated so many times in the film's narrative, and it is an indicator of social worth. So the moment somebody loses her charm, so let's think about the acid attack victims. What are we saying about them when this is being endorsed? And then there are so many other regressive points as well, or endorsement of stereotypes as well, reference to Werner syndrome, and then there is a stigma related to such diseases, and then it is actually reinforcing the stigma by saying that no, a woman can go to any extent to regain her charm, to regain her youthfulness, and not able to accept things. So if we think about the movie Rakshasan, in that it again shows that how the society treated a particular person who had a particular kind of illness, and how that person became a criminal. Not just him, his family, his mother also becomes a criminal. So when we think about it, again, the entire crime, the root of the entire evil is again this beauty myth, if we think about it in that way. So there is a doctor who is willing to experiment with all his medical experiments and his knowledge and whatsoever, to find out a medicine. To invent a medicine which can actually cure this disease, and the entire evil begins from there, or the problems begin from there. And not just that, aging is also seen as a taboo. So she thinks that, okay, this is premature kind of aging, but at the same time, nobody asked that question. How does it matter? So there is nothing that is equated between any intimate emotions, but it is about how the popular notion goes, or how the society views somebody who has a premature kind of aging issue. So that generally, that hits at the aging being seen as a taboo kind of concept as well. This is my reading. I found it to be that way. And then all the time, even Madhubala, though she is seen as a very evil and wicked and very assertive kind of a woman, who is very smart and trickster kind of a person, she again seeks some kind of endorsement from the male counterparts. She doesn't want to be left by the minister. So she plays tricks with Gautam. At the same time, when she sees as playing with Gautam's emotions, she is shown as somebody who is victimized by the minister's agendas and other things. So why is he treating her in certain ways? That is very subtle. It's not very clear. So when I was thinking about it from a common person's point of view. When we watch it, there are several stereotypes like this being absorbed into our minds without knowing it. I won't say that anybody here would have had any stereotypes, but then this film is not only for critics, right? When it goes to the masses, some of my students, I asked them to watch it and then write down certain points. They couldn't find this aging being seen as a taboo there, or they didn't think about females actually seeking some kind of validation from the males. They could just get very superficial kind of elements, not because they are not trained. It's just because how they perceive the apparent. So there is a lot of there are a lot of issues in that. Then the capitalist agenda of cosmetic industry, as I said in the beginning, and the biopolitics, these could have been explored more in this film, but very subtly they have mentioned. And the horror is actually shown, as I said, the mortuary scene and the embryos in a big room being bottled and kept. Those were really like, they could actually make people stunned about the thing, but then that was the only moment which actually made. And the rest of them were completely melodramatic, where the women are questioning Madhubala for her brutality, or she not being a good mother, and how can you do that to your own child, kind of questioning and all. So it is the topics that it could have actually explored more are underexplored, and it ends at that point. So I think I'll just wind it up. For me, it has a lot of overtones of progressive thematic orientations, but then these are all deceiving the common audience by actually asserting or reasserting the gender-based stereotypes, largely gender-based stereotypes, and quite a few things about the biopolitical aspects as well. And something that I was quite disappointed about this film was having this much potential. The directors and the script writer, they went back to that balancing act. This is what we see every single time. Even in this movie, which was quite like a controversial one before it made to the theater, Pathan. When we watch it, it's not what we hear before the release of the program. There's a lot of balancing act that is happening. Okay, so it deals with a very firebrand kind of a theme. So they balance it with quite a lot of things. So that balancing, I don't want to go into details of that particular film, but as I read them, as I wrote about them quite closely, I just thought about it as an example here. So that balancing act, yeah, is very much there about the plot itself, and then about the modern woman and the pristine conservative value system that Indian women are supposed to carry. You know, that material domain and the spiritual domain, all sorts of things are quite compactly present there. But what upset me more was the you know, as they say, violently bringing in this balancing bit. They could have just left it. You know, the baby could have been a girl child, but then it is definitely a male child, and it has to be called Krishna. The child has to be named as Krishna to validate Yashoda's name and the entire concept about Yashoda. So Yashoda, the name itself stands for the foster mother, and it brings in the concept of surrogacy in a slightly different way. All these were very potential. I mean, it all had potential for further enrichment, but they just left it there and then went on this balancing between endorsement of virtues, endorsement of what is actually acknowledged by several others or by the popular ideology, I would say, as the good or the best Indian Nari. So it went in that kind of a context. That is where I found this to be very problematic. The under exploring of the major themes that could have actually, I mean, it's a mainstream movie. They made it in a very commercial kind of perspective, but at the same time, the way it began or the way it began to deal with the theme was quite promising, but it kind of failed as a melodrama, where we have seen the you know, the wine being bottled in the new new bottles. That's it. That's what I thought about it, and it would be nice if you can share your opinions on that. Over to you, Nigila ma'am. I'm done.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much, Karthika. That was a really wonderful overview of the film. First of all, thanks very much for suggesting a popular film, because I think it's very important for us to engage with popular cinema, with all its contradictions, which, you know, as you very well, you know, kind of laid bare. You've spoken about a whole range of issues that the film deals with, from surrogacy, the stereotypes that it endorses, its way of dealing with, you know, certain new developments that are happening in the field of science, which will probably have wide-ranging connotations and which can potentially make wide-ranging impact. But yet how the film kind of recuperates you know, certain regressive, as you call them, positions in the process. I think, and also the biopolitics, you know, involved in the process. So I thank you very much, Karthika, both for suggesting the film and opening it to for discussion with such a range of issues. Anyone who wants to come in at this point, you're most welcome. Please unmute yourself so I know that you want to speak. While people gather their thoughts, you know, as you were saying, this is a mainstream film, Telugu film, and with its share of melodrama, with its share of, you know, exaggeration, working through certain commonsensical ideas and opinions, which are, you know, largely somewhat endorsed in society. So though you have surrogacy, they cannot be people who just rent their wombs. They are also people who own the baby that is growing in them, who love them, who care for them, and so on and so forth. So you need to kind of balance the idea of surrogacy with this extended idea of motherhood. I was also thinking of one other aspect, and something that kind of came to my mind while I was watching this film and also thinking about it. And this was Mahashweta Devi's Stanadaini. Because something that is very stark to me in the film is there are these, rich women, upper class women, mostly women from abroad, who are coming to India. Ostensibly, it seems to begin with, at least we think that this is the case of rich women coming to a third world country and taking a baby back. But then it turns out that they're not taking a baby back. They are actually part of this, cosmetics industry where they try to beat beat the process of aging. So, so for me, it seemed like starkly it's kind of set up as these, like in Sanadaini, the women who don't want to feed their babies, and therefore there is the need for a breast giver because they don't want to lose their figures. So in this case, it is these women from the Western countries who don't want to look old, and therefore so they feed off the bodies literally of the women in the poorer and third world countries. So I was thinking about that kind of a parallel too. And yet these women in the third world countries or in India in this context are also the women who are seen as upholders of the moral values surrounding motherhood. Though they may have gone in for surrogacy, it is, so they are the ones who literally, which is why this whole architecture of justification is needed. And they all have very legitimate sob stories, so to speak, from where they, which is pushing them to rent their wombs according to the film. So it does not make it seem like simply either an simply exploitative, or it doesn't seem like they're just doing it for a commercial purpose to better their lives or whatever. It is always for a better family, to redeem themselves in the eyes of society, so all that. So this entire class and also nationalities probably across nations, the intersectionality of class and gender, and this idea of surrogacy invested with a particular kind of morality, which is not divested of feelings of motherhood, but in fact probably injected more with feelings of motherhood. So I thought that was happening to a great extent in the film.
I totally agree. Yeah, absolutely. In fact, what actually worried me was about these foreign women coming here. And then when I read about surrogacy, the actuality is even more bizarre. When they come, they have clear demands. I want a child of this complexion, and he or she, it should be a he or it should be a she. And when instead of she is born, they don't even give the money back. So the reality of the surrogacy market is really cruel. And in this particular movie, they have taken the most soft, or the extremely polished kind of version of it. And when it comes to the foreigners visiting this country for Eva or any that cosmetic firm, they don't have to worry about the color, the complexion, the caste. Caste was also a very, is also a very important thing in surrogacy. So nothing they have to worry about, because, after all, it's the same. But then I wish they would have, portrayed it in a slightly more sensitive kind of way. It would have reached people, because I even talked to common people in the sense who are not trained in literature. Just I asked them about their own opinions, my BTech students and others. So they don't see this at all. They just get it, imbibe it just like that. So I was thinking some kind of criticality if we don't have, then it's again endorsing certain things that they just say. An entire kind of discourse about surrogacy is totally absent from the film when it completely centers around surrogacy. And the newspaper clippings that appear after the titles go, I mean, after the film, it clearly shows that this cosmetic industry has connections with surrogacy. And I've done some research into that. It clearly shows that there is an indication. So other than those newspaper cuttings alone, they could have actually tried to foreground a bit, I mean, in a bit more sensible fashion. I felt that is where I got upset. And then this aging kind of aging as a very important it is not as a desirable kind of thing, and a disease not being treated as a way it should be. So a lot of problems, that's why I called it regressive. Yeah, Standa, I see the connection. Yes, ma'am. I didn't think about it, but then yes.
Yeah, anyone else who wants to come in now? Please unmute yourself so I know you want to speak. Sridhar, Tarkeshwar, Madhurima, Sonia, anyone? Geeta has also just joined us. Geeta?
I knew that it's a commercial film, and but then I thought it's something that is important, so I chose.
Certainly, yes. Yeah, Tarakeshwar, you had unmuted. Go ahead.
Just to keep the discussion going, one is to look at this film in the context of the discourse on surrogacy in India, and how it gets represented in the Indian films. So that would have been one way of continuing the discussion, or within Telugu itself. While watching this, I remember that there was an old film where there was a depiction of surrogacy in Telugu film. Now I searched the internet and I found that it's called Nelalu. Tumati Nelalu, 9 months literally.
Okay.
So comparing with that, the discourse that was there around surrogacy in that film and the discourse that is there now after 2 decades, more than 2 decades, or a quarter century nearly, is completely different. So there is a, in that sense, a change in the discourse around surrogacy. So there is more acceptance now. That is one point I wanted to make. Tracing this discourse around surrogacy, the way it gets represented in the films, either in India in general or in Telugu itself. And the second one is about, though this film is about talks about surrogacy, this is not a film about surrogacy per se, because it ends up exposing the corporate exploitation of the third world countries to manufacture certain kind of drugs and unethical practices that they involve in. This kind of corporatization of cosmetics and medicine is something that keeps coming in the popular films in the last 2-3 decades, in the Indian films too. Even the recent film by the Lucia director, which is a multilingual one, where Fahad Fasil has also acted, is also about that. So in that sense, there are a lot of films in Tamil, even in Telugu, even in other languages, where they expose these medical practices of the multinational companies and their relationship with the local politicians to exploit the uh, people in India. So in that sense, that is another genre, I think, in which we can place this film and try to make sense of it.
Hmm.
I think these are the two ways in which I thought of making sense of it. Of course, looking at the uh, representation of surrogacy and the question of gender attached to it and how problematic it is, that is also well taken. I'm not saying that we should not do that, but along with that, we can also look at it in these two ways. Thank you.
That's true. That's true. How it differs from the previous discourses. That is something. Yeah. So as I said in the beginning, I was not familiar with many films that dealt with it. I should have checked. But two films that I was familiar with from Malayalam. They were totally focusing on surrogacy and its ethical concerns and the moral dilemma that comes in. So I just looked at them, and somebody has written it as Dhoomam. I think I haven't watched that film, or maybe I have forgotten. I have no idea. But yes, the previous discourses and how it changed over a time period. I was actually looking at that triangle that I have mentioned, how that surrogacy is being linked with this cosmetic industry, and then how power plays a very significant role there, and how biopolitics is actually being the ground for the entire discourse in the film to stem up from. That is what I was really curious about. But as you said, yeah, that I should have taken. Yeah, that would have given a far better kind of reading. Thank you.
Yeah, anyone else would like to come in now? Sanjay, Ajanta. Madhurima. Yes, Ajanta, please go ahead.
Nikhila, I haven't, I'm so sorry I haven't had the chance to watch the film, but I just wanted to log into the discussion. And I found it so interesting that she's chosen to, I've never watched a Samantha film. Yeah, I'm ashamed to say this. And I was so intrigued. So just to say that I really enjoyed listening to the comments. And to, the film that I have seen very, very recently is Barbie, Greta Gerwig, right? So this is such a topical film for so many reasons for me. And I was also reminded of, Skin Deep and Something Like War, the documentary films of our own traditions. So, as I said, these are just random thoughts. And because Malavika is also working on this whole thing, what do we think of how do we talk of a woman-centric film? Ignoring it's, in some ways we have to account for how the mainstream defines feminism too. So I don't know, these are just random thoughts, but because I just saw Barbie, and my goodness, what a I think you can link these films in so many ways. So just random thoughts, and I'm sorry I didn't have the time to watch it, but again, just to keep the discussion going.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah. Respond, Karthika. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I'm really grateful for that. Mainstream films and connecting them with feminism, because I didn't mention that, but then usually what we say is that the parallel cinema deals with such serious themes, and then but then do they reach the theater? Do people go to them other than film festivals, which have become really like even more commercial than the commercial films themselves? I mean, in my opinion, again. So as ma'am was saying, we need to discuss these popular films and how they might carry these loads of feminism or any other isms as such. So that is why I thought I'll rather discuss a commercial film rather than going for a parallel cinema and then choosing something very very heavy and maybe quite more significant. So yes, ma'am, I haven't watched Barbie, but I heard so many things about it, and then been getting a lot of memes about Barbie movie. Maybe a little later I'll watch. Thank you for that.
Can I just make one more comment? Just like this, there's been so much writing about how Greta Gerwig is now part of the mainstream and the Hollywood screenwriter strike and all of this. So like you, I also feel, yes, on the one hand, she was the darling of the indie scene, but in some ways it also makes a difference to have a very intelligent director working within the mainstream, no?
Mhm.
So yeah. So I will definitely watch Yashoda because I'm so intrigued by Samantha character, madam, and perhaps So Karan Johar, what is this? Shah Rukh Khan, all of them have had children through surrogacy, and within the Bombay industry, of course, this is also quite a sort of current debate, no? Jitendra's children and all of them. Yeah, sure.
Totally. Actually, what was shocking was the actual statistics from the surrogacy market or about the surrogacy market in India. That I just casually read that and then watched this film. So it just struck me. So that is why that was what that was another reason for me to just opt this film. Very very intriguing. As Tarakeshwar sir said, it's not a film about surrogacy, but it's about how surrogacy is used to for this agenda of money makers or whosoever. So that connection was really an interesting one for me. It's not a great movie to watch, but then it one time watched, yes, it is good enough. It'll open up even more discussions, I think, if we watch it. How loosely the plot is handled or how loosely it is directed. That's what I felt. It could have been a really good commercial film with zero stereotypes being endorsed. But then again, this balancing act of I felt that it is that Bharat Nari that comes in between all the time. Maybe I'm too critical about it. I have no idea. But then that's what I thought. The female virtues and values and women are supposed to carry all those things. That burden that was vested on the directors or the writers could have been the reason for that, is what I assume. Thank you.
Yeah, Sridhar, Telugu film expert, anything to say?
I'm no expert.
Yeah, avid Telugu film watcher. Please go ahead.
Only hunch is that, see, the film is not, it's all come in when Tara spoke or Ajanta spoke. But their concern is not surrogacy, their concern is the market. So, if we inhabit in that debate, then it can, whatever genre it is, you can make sense. But surrogacy is one theme they took it as but surrogacy, I don't think they have any idea. Makers of the film. So it's nothing to do with surrogacy, but the beauty market.
To some extent I agree, but then I found the detailing of the interior and the kind of privacy that they are offered inside and the kind of facilities that are promised. So all of them had some kind of hinting at the market, and people might think that this is how it looks like, but it is not. Usually they are cheated, and this is, I know that this is for the cosmetic industry that they are being brought there. So of course they'll be paid 25 lakhs or 50 lakhs, whatever promised amount as advance probably, but then that is not the case that happens. And if it was a film about surrogacy, they would have focused on that. But then a serious theme like this being being a source there, I mean, being an element there in the narrative, I thought that they could have given a little more serious kind of treatment. That's what I was trying to point out. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else would like to come in? Tarakeshwar, go ahead.
Just to keep the discussion going, taking on from where Ajanta left it. See, why I was saying that it should be placed historically, the agency of women, if you're looking at it, and issue of agency of women as one of the prominent issues within feminism or women's issue. Then tracing it historically over a period of time, the way it gets represented in the films is quite interesting. In that sense, this film is pushing the envelope further. But this film per se, you may not be satisfied with it. But if you look at it historically, and it's pushing the envelope further. And it's important that in the mainstream, you can't push the envelope further. And even if you're pushing it, it should be in the garb of something else which is acceptable. So the kind of negotiation that is happening to portray a certain kind of agency to women, however limited it is from the radical point of view of feminism, is also important, I would say. So in that sense, historical tracing of it
Is important. Yes.
is important. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Yeah, I agree. And as he said in the previous comment, I mean, when he spoke first, he said about how surrogacy is seen as not quite a terrible thing, or maybe it's not, it's looked at now very differently. Yes, I remember now when Samantha's character Yashoda, she works in the Swiggy outlet, I mean Zomato outlet, and then she comes home. She's a pregnant woman and she goes to this maternity home. It is shown as nobody really cares about that kind of a fact. Maybe because she doesn't have a big belly. I'm not sure how it would have been if she had a big belly and then she walks around the society. I mean, that is not portrayed. So in the initial months, she was not looking like a pregnant lady, but still those who knew that she was pregnant, they were just accepting that, okay, she's doing this for money, for her surgery. That was the reason that she gave for the surgery of her sister or someone. So this is the stigma about surrogacy, or the way people look at a surrogate mother, that is I mean, if we look at it historically, that can also be studied actually. That is right. Thank you, sir. I just noted it down. Yes.
Okay. Anyone else? Any other comments on the film, on the discussion so far? Yeah, go ahead, Madhurima.
Yeah, so this discussion that we were talking about, like the politics of choosing a surrogate mother, or that Karthika ma'am has just said, like how it would have been taken by the society if other people knew that she was pregnant, Yashoda was pregnant. This is presented in the film Mimi.
Yes.
If you watch the film,
yes,
it is discussed in the film Mimi, because that film is about surrogacy. And also the exploitation of the surrogate mothers is also portrayed there, especially by the first world clients, if we say it. Yeah, it is there. And I also read your paper on this film, that is Mothering and Othering. Yeah, that was a very interesting paper. And I like the part where you said that whatever Madhubala was, if Madhu ma'am, who is referred to like that, so whatever Madhu is doing, it is very unethical. I get it. But the scene where she was punished, it seems that she was punished because of the fact that she used her own baby to make herself beautiful.
All other crimes are just vanished, and this being the bad mother was the immediate reason to punish her. And people just, I mean, it's not shown that she's also a victim of the patriarchal ideals that are portrayed. Thank you, Madhurima.
Yeah, that one, and the other one was that there is always a moral policing that is going on inside the Eva Center. Like if you see when one of the surrogate mothers was smoking, yeah, so it is shown that you should not smoke because it will affect the baby. So if you are a surrogate, even though you are a surrogate mother, if you don't care for the baby, you cannot be a mother. So that is always highlighted in the film.
Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
Multiple things are there about their dietary habits, the way they should behave, the way they should think. Also, you should sing good songs, so that the child will be. So all the Krishna songs, things come up. Yeah, you are
yeah.
right.
Yeah, and I also found Madhu's character to be very interesting. Like, even though she believes in the patriarchal ideology of beauty, she still has the agency.
Hmm.
Like,
Perhaps she's,
even
yeah, she's one
like even
character.
with the minister or with the doctor, it seems she has more agency than them.
Um, Perhaps it's certain frames, but with the husband bit, I think she surrenders to that, because as she was aging, or as she has got the disease, this is how I thought about it. As she has got the syndrome, she understands that he wants to stay away from her, and in a sense she wanted to, not for love, definitely not for love, but for power and money. She wants him to be connected, or she wants herself to be connected with him. So again, there is kind of a subservience, or a kind of subjugation that happens there. So her agency about, I mean, if you think about it, like her agency to be beautiful as such, yes, but then this entire concept of beauty and being wanted, or being craved for, or being deserved, is actually portrayed. That is where I said that she too sacrifices that kind of an agency when she is presented as a very bold and stern character who can actually play with Gautam's emotion. She doesn't do that with the minister. She's pretty much like, when she loses her beauty and charm, she's quite concerned about it, and in order to get him back, she begins the entire thing. That is why she double crosses Gautam in the film. That's how I read it, Madhurima. That's
Yeah,
why
but
I made a
what I
statement.
think is that she didn't want to get him back. Like, she didn't want to get back her husband in a very traditional sense. I think she
No,
wants to
not
get
at
back
all.
the agency or the power
She
that
was
she
not
got
at all a
from him.
traditional wife in that
Yeah,
sense at all, because
yeah.
it was all for material benefits that marriage itself happened.
Yeah.
So she was
So
never an ideal.
material benefit from Madhu's point of view, not from the minister's point of view. And
Hmm.
also the marital relationship is not very much focused in the film. We
Yeah,
never get to know anything about it. It is
it was
more
a
like a
pact.
partnership.
Yes, it was a pact. It was a very clear kind of pact between them both. He was enticed by her beauty and charm, and she was enticed by the money and power that he had. So that was the pact between them. So there's nothing like a wife figure that Madhu portrays. But then that mothering part was very important when it came to using her own fetus for the beauty product to bring her youthfulness back.
And also this idea of beauty, yeah, I am not endorsing it, the patriarchal idea of beauty. But what Madhu is doing, I think it is kind of a personal choice. She wants to be beautiful.
Hmm.
The
Yeah.
film endorses it. The film does not criticizes, that is true. But I find Madhu's character to be quite interesting.
It is. I mean, her character is very, very interesting, and at some points very intriguing as well. And yeah, she perhaps one female character who endorses her agency in certain ways. In certain ways, I reiterate, is Madhu actually, because she knows how to tame people, and how to take charge of her own self and others, how to manipulate. All those things she knows. So in a sense, yes, she is very smart in handling that. And of course, if you think about it as beauty is one's own preference and choice, yes, she does that. And in a sense, she has that rights over her body. So she conceives and then she uses the fetus. So it's just like in a different sense that is her own right over the body. So if you read it that way, as you said, from Madhu's perspective, possible.
Yes, but in one scene, there was this agency was not portrayed when probably she asks the husband, "Have you taken protection or something?" And he says, "That is not my concern," or something like that. So if you see that within the husband-wife relationship, she does not have that agency.
Yeah, some other frames were also there. I don't remember the sequence, but then very subtle references, very many subtle references are there where we feel that, okay, she endorses certain things, but at the same time, she also is a victim of this major structure that is, in place.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for suggesting the film. Yeah.
I think one of the things that the film tries to do is also bring to the fore different kinds of agential femininities, endorsing some, kind of throwing out of the window others, showing them to be bad examples of femininity. So in that sense, Samantha is, representing, I mean, she's agential, but she's also a form of good femininity because she's a mother. She, does things for the family. She takes care of her sister. She's also accepting of the baby. So while that is one form of femininity, Madhu forms another, pole of femininity, which is certainly seen as, defined vis-a-vis the kind of femininity that Yashoda represents. And I mean, she's part of the same continuum with which, the film begins, that is Olivia. Whose, all these rich women who come from elsewhere, whose justification is not built into the narrative. So why is it, what is at stake for them that they want to? So just that they are rich and they come from the first world is enough for us to see them as bad women. We don't need to know anything more about them. Whereas Madhu, being Indian, how can she, be this? So that seems to be the shock value that is there in the film, vis-a-vis whom Yashoda's, own sacrifice and all that is kind of pitted, I thought. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
Also, these first world actors like Olivia and all, like we don't really know whether they know that the secret ingredient is the fetus, because it is nowhere explained. It is more like a secret ingredient everywhere expressed. So we only come to know about it when Madhu is doing that in the video meeting with her first world counterparts.
Yeah, when she talks about fetus farming.
Yeah, and Jashoda's feminine agency, like Jashoda's character is portrayed or is constructed in a way that will be accepted by the patriarchal ideology.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like comparing both Jashoda's agency and Madhu's agency, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that is what I said. There is always this Madonna versus media kind of figure, If we look at it, I mean, I was really curious to read about media. If I'm right, she's the wicked mother who killed all her children because her husband cheated on her, the Greek goddess. So, in a sense, she just was quite. I mean, she had this vengeance and she wanted to be. She wanted to take revenge on her husband. So the children that they had together, she killed all of them. So, I mean, that is the story. That's the version that I have heard somewhere. So I was just thinking, yeah, when Madhu, always that kind of a contradictory figure is there. So something is of an antithesis of the other thing. It's quite contradictory kind of figure. So Yashoda is an ideal woman and a mother, and never they are compared about the wife part that they play. One is clearly absent because Yashoda is not married. The other one's marital relationship, we just hear it in one or two segments where, very harsh comments are being made. That's it. So largely it's about the good mother and bad mother, the Madonna and the media kind of figure. So when we can see that this bad mother is the one who as a woman largely expresses herself very boldly and all. Whereas the other one is quite passive when she is good in her, marital, martial arts, not marital, martial arts and, using weapons and all. She's a trained person, but then still when it comes to values, it again goes back to the old norms of being naive and all. I remember some discussions that we had long back, but that is in the context of nationalism that Nigla madam had with us about the movie Pardes and Dilwale Dulhaniya Le Jayenge. So how certain values, even when we focus on modernity. She was using Partha Chatterjee's framework and then discussing that. So just like that, we can see a very different kind of, something similar, but then slightly different kind of a variation here when this good versus bad is idealized and the bad mother is being punished by all the good mothers in a very typical kind of fashion that we can hear or see from anywhere. So some crimes happen. A few years ago in Kerala, one woman killed most of the family members were killed by her. And then when she was brought to the spot for evidence and all, how people were shouting at her and how memes were, populating social media platforms. Even now, so the person's name is used as a, used as a symbol for a wicked womanhood and all. So I even remember some of, when we went for an outing with some family friends, they just cracking jokes like, oh, is it safe to drink? Because that lady poisoned everyone to death. So the family members. So when I was offering something, people were asking, is it safe to drink? It's not that, my family members ask, but then it's a very big social kind of atmosphere. So every woman doesn't need to be their, family members at all, but any woman is a threat. So that kind of generalization and stereotyping and plenty of memes were there. So as I said, it is just about how womanhood is being pictured there and how motherhood is a very big attribute in that construction of womanhood is what I was looking at.
Okay. Any other comments on the film? Yes, Tarakeshwar.
Comment on the film about a methodological issue about looking at agency in popular films in general. Looking at this film, though there are three threads, three events and three plot lines in the beginning, they are tied up neatly. But while tying up them neatly, there are certain jerks also. In that sense, there are many contradictions within the plot. So, and because the film is trying to project an issue and the characters and the characterization is not important. Even the events are not important in the sense that we come to know about the plot through the dialogues, not through the action. Interestingly, so-called quote-unquote the villain characters themselves reveal what is the motive, how it happened, and things like that. So it is not actually unearthed through an investigating piece as such. So in that sense, here the theme is more important than the unraveling the plot in a particular way, keeping the interest of the audience, who done it kind of thing. And in that sense, the characters are not round characters. They simply come to fulfill a particular function in that sense. But interestingly, because of the contradictions within the plot, the characters become ambiguous and we start thinking about the agency of these characters by looking at these various dialogues or events in which they are part of it. So actually a loose plot, which is not tightly woven, giving rise to a discussion on the agency of the characters concerned, I thought is quite interesting. So it's not a comment on anyone but methodological issues. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Any other comments? Anything else to say? Okay. In which case, thank you, Karthika, very much for suggesting this very interesting film that has sparked such an interesting discussion this evening. Thank you for laying out all those issues. Many of us will probably go back and watch the film again in the light of this discussion. Thank you all for joining
very much.
tonight. Yeah, thank you for joining tonight. So next Saturday, we meet again at 9 p.m. With another film for discussion. So
Thank you,
have a good-
Karthika.
Yeah,
Thank you,
good
sir.
After a
night.
long time, we watched a commercial movie and we had a good discussion.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Bye.
Good
Thank you,
night.
Ajanta, ma'am. Bye-bye.